What's up, boys? How are you? Welcome to Friday. DWG repping the 13-0 Ottawa 67s OHL final. I told you I would be repping the hometown team. They won game one last night, 7-2 against what I would consider a real tough opponent in the Guelph Storm. I had both teams go to the final. And I would say that right now the Ottawa 67s are in the driver's seat simply because of they've got rest. They haven't lost a game in the playoffs. They're 3 games away from making history. And like last year, the Hamilton Bulldogs beating a tired Sault Ste. Marie team, which if they were fresh, they probably would have beat Hamilton. I think the same thing's going to happen here. I think Ottawa's going to roll. I'm going to keep an eye out on things. If the 67s have to win Game 2 and Game 3, I may go and try to witness history next Wednesday night in Guelph. So if anyone's interested, maybe we can talk about it. I've already witnessed history in the OHL before because I have been to the longest Memorial Cup game in junior hockey history. That was 14 years ago, and it was at the 2005 Memorial Cup in London, Ontario. The Ottawa 67s defeated the Kelowna Rockets. Now, the Ottawa 67s that year ended up losing in the semifinal to Rimouski, but that Kelowna team that they beat had some pretty good players on it, most notably Shea Weber. So I've been there, and they've since changed the rule in the round robin. So the only way that the CHL will have a longer game than the one that I witnessed will be if it's in the semifinal or the final, and so far that hasn't happened. So we'll see what transpires in Halifax. But 67's up 3-0. We have the Toronto Raptors, who in Game 2, the supporting cast of players around Kawhi Leonard just didn't show up. I told you Kyle Lowry shit the bed, and he's continuing to shit the bed along with everybody else. No one's making shots. Philadelphia is a good team, but there's no way in hell Philadelphia is better than a Toronto team if they're playing anywhere close to their potential. So, we're going to see what the Toronto Raptors are made of now. They're down 2-1 in the series. If they lose on Sunday, they're done. And Kyle Lowry, you might as well just fucking trade him. And the whole reign, basically, it'll go into a rebuild mode, like the Jays. They had their 2-year window, and it's gone. And we're going to go into a full rebuild, and it's going to suck again. We didn't get any more games. We got one more game than we got last year. But actually, we didn't get because this year they won in 5 in the first round and they won in 6 in the second. So absolute trash. But we'll see what happens there. Elsewhere, the Boston Bruins win 4-1 in Columbus. That's a huge win for Boston. And the Colorado Avalanche, they tie up their series as well against San Jose, and that's a big one for them as well. So now we got a couple best of 3 game series. And Shazi had mentioned in some of the group chats, and I've been very vocal about how I don't care about the second round and really the playoffs in general anymore. But we've looked at maybe Boston, San Jose in a final. That would be cool. One that we didn't really talk about is if Columbus and Colorado made the final, and the reason being is because Matt Duchene would be on Colorado or on Columbus, and that would be a little bit of a subtle jab at if, let's say, Duchene wins the cup, it would kind of be vengeance, and if Colorado beat it, it'd be like, fuck you, Duchene, you didn't think we were good enough or whatever. So I think there's some that would be a good storyline. Obviously the Boston San Jose would be the best storyline, but overall, if we got a couple of 7-game series here in the second round, at least that would salvage some interest. I have a feeling that Columbus-Boston one's going to go 7. I would expect that Carolina is gonna finish off New York either tonight or on the weekend here. I think they could probably beat them in 5. They're playing they're playing in Carolina. They got home ice. If they don't win, then they're playing in the Library in Brooklyn. I think they just, the New York Islanders really dropped the ball there with that one. They had an opportunity to use home ice to their advantage, and they dropped the ball. So that's their own undoing, and unfortunately, that's why they're not going to win the series. So, and then the other series, that's a tough one. When I look at that series, I think. I think that both teams have kind of played good at times. I think I still really like St. Louis, but Dallas is just figuring it away, and it's getting a little bit chippy right now. And I think both teams can play chippy. So I'm still leaning towards St. Louis. They got home ice. I still think they're going to find a way. I think they're just built to play every different way, but this Dallas team, they just don't want to go away, and they got a little bit more high-end talent, even though St. Louis is Tarasenko. I just like St. Louis's makeup. So another big game for that series tonight, and we'll see where that goes. So, and then we've got some other games in the association, but I think we're starting to figure out in the association, the teams and stuff like that. Couple side notes: Red Kelly passed away, 91 years old. Second legend that we've lost in the last couple months, of course, Ted Lindsay. A couple Red Wings legends, they got their name in the rafters, and of course Red Kelly was a big part of the 4 Stanley Cups in Toronto as well. So to have 8 Stanley Cups is pretty impressive, and he's got an iconic photo in Toronto, which is pretty cool too. So, rest in peace to the legends, I should say. And then the female hockey players taking a stand because they want one league, and one of the leagues had folded, and then the NWHL they don't feel like is viable enough to make money, and I guess there's 2 ways to look at this. They've got some very, very marketable stars, and they haven't been able to figure out a business model. The hard part about female hockey is they want these salaries for these players, but you need to be able to have a market where you can sell it, and I think they probably could. I'm just not sure with the saturation of all the sports out there for your entertainment dollar. I'm not sure if they think like the WNBA is not a huge league. It's like an 8-team league. It's not a massive league, and they don't make a ton of money, and the NBA supplements that. The NHL isn't really interested in supplementing and losing more money. They've already got a couple teams that they're supplementing. They're helping Arizona, and they're helping some of these other teams and doing all this stuff. They're not in a position where they want to jump in with both feet and help them out. They're going to give them some money, but it's really not that much. I think it's like $100,000 a year, which is peanuts in the NHL. But the female players are pushing for the NHL to make a league, and I think that's I think it would be cool, and it's a great idea, and you can have a lot of teams in NHL cities, and they can play and stuff like that. I'm just not sure how it would work logistically, like when you would play, where you would play, because the overhead and cost for operating a league like this. I know some of those operating costs can be cut because of the league offices and the accounting and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to the logistics, the NHL has never really rushed to this. So them taking a stand saying they'll take a full year off, the NHL would take at least 2 years to build a program like this. So I understand where the females are coming from, and I think realistically, when you look at that league, it would fall even lower than the OHL when it comes to entertainment dollars. So, if these female players are looking for salaries, equal salaries to the NHL players, or even entry levels, or even CFL salaries, which would be in and around $80,000 to $100,000, there's just no market for it. Like there's very few female sports where people will pay top dollar to watch it. Tennis probably being the number one. There's a bit of a niche market for the female golf as well. And then outside of that, maybe professional figure skating, so the shows that they do, but not a ton. By and large, not a ton. I mean, if you look at the business model for the curling, they've done a pretty good job, and they're trying to do that as well. And they kind of go on these Grand Slam tournaments, and they make their money there. And I don't think that the female league can really grow the game if they do these weekend showcases. But they might not have a choice for the next 2 years unless they do a showcase, unless they start going on the road and doing these road showcases everywhere to build the game, because I'm not sure if they can sell out and equal the overhead that it would cost to start up the league. And they just think that the NHL is just going to bail them out, and I don't think the NHL is in the business of getting there right now. They're focused on Seattle. They're focused on propping up the weaker teams, and they're not really looking at that venture right now. I would say it's even behind, maybe even looking at a European team, or the focus for them. They've got Seattle, and then they've got they're trying to prop up the weaker teams. They're trying to get the new CBA done. They're trying to grow the game. They're going to try to get in conjunction with the CBA. They're going to try to grow the game in China, and then of course maybe even the Olympics. So like, the women's hockey league is probably 6, 7, maybe 8 on the NHL's to-do list right now. And I'm not saying that it, equality and all that stuff, it shouldn't be there. I'm just saying this is the reality. Like, this is the reality that, I might go to a game, but I wouldn't get season tickets. I don't go to a ton of hockey games to begin with, but I'm not shelling out more than like $15 for a game. So, if there was a team in Hamilton, I might go to a game, but then again, the entertainment dollar. There's lots of things to do. Even in a city like Hamilton or KW, you've got junior hockey. You're going to go to a couple Jays games a year. You're going to go to a couple hockey games a year. You might slide down and watch an NFL game in Buffalo or Detroit. I mean, people are busier than ever. The only thing that I can think of right now is if this league starts up, if they play in smaller venues, they play in niche markets, and they get some kind of TV deal with TSN and ESPN, the TV dollars are what's going to help promote that game, because then eyeballs can watch, and then they can kind of go from there. So I think that's they need someone experienced in business enough to be able to reach a TV deal, or that they can forge it with the NHL and get the female hockey on TV, because that's really the only gateway that they're going to be able to get exposure and grow their game to a league where it's going to get to a spot where they can sustain a viable league for years to come. So those are my thoughts on all the sports heading into the weekend. Not as excited going into the weekend as I would normally be with sports, but there's always something that's going to happen. And Brad Marchand still being Brad Marchand. It was a 2-minute penalty when he hit the guy with a rabbit punch. I thought, if he got a suspension, he got a suspension. If he didn't, he didn't. But at the end of the day, there's some bad blood brewing there, and we'll see where it goes. So enjoy your weekend, gentlemen, and we'll talk to you soon.